When James first came, he had two questions in his mind. He says, what is the value of human life? And then what is the value of a man? And you can't explain that in one simple setting. It just doesn't work. So you'd come back and then talk and talk. And he finally had an inspiration as to what the answer to his two questions were when he came here. And I think everybody can benefit. We can learn from James, his life, things that will help us into our future. And with these two questions, his life was consumed in the search for answers. Even when he couldn't really form the question right of what he was after, he was seeking an answer to something. And some he found, and others he decided to leave unanswered. With him. James found that when he would seek for answers, that people hated him. They rejected him. They would lie about him. And they would persecute him. And he spent a lot of time fending off persecutions. Even to the point where he said, the one woman that I really loved, I couldn't marry because I didn't want her persecuted. He felt that if he stayed too close, that persecution would fall on his family. He said people develop a group of fears that does not allow them to love, to understand, or even to tolerate others. And if you have no patience or tolerance with others, you're always at war within yourself. He didn't want that in his life, this constant war going on. This understanding of how people react to him and things in his attempt to find understandings caused James to seek out a defense that would push people away. He would look at the world through blankets and clouds of doom and gloom. He got very depressed over it. When you can't see past the pain, doom and gloom sets in. And he had so much pain, just so much. For many years, James seen this world as a hopeless mess that was filled with demons of anger, rage, betrayal, unforgiveness, mockery. And he kept coming back. What is the value of human life when that's what you're facing all the time? What's the value of a man when you can't really be a man? You got to face all this attack and attack and attack. He said he ran to comfort foods to ease his pain and frustration. And then came to the assemblies of the Father's love here and found answers that he couldn't find anywhere else. He found acceptance and fellowship. And he was very happy for that security because he wasn't attacked. It's like when he spoke, people listened to what he had to say. When he spoke here at the assemblies, people would listen because it was always well thought out. He never asked foolish questions or made foolish statements or mockery type statements. His questions and statements were really well thought out. He was taught the ways of righteousness that Jesus walked in, and he appreciated it. He said joy came into his life as he learned to lay things down to Jesus. And over the years, we've seen dramatic changes in him. But he's still seeing the world outside of this as so messed up. Where do you start?
It is messed up.
Yeah. But he said, but by attending here, he found joy in his life. And he learned, as he learned to lay things down at the new moons, he said, I found where I belong. I found a place to belong. And that, when he found that peace that he had never experienced before, it was like seeing a young child anticipate something. He was anticipating. And he couldn't do that before. He just couldn't. It didn't work out. When James came under oppressive attacks to his health, to his finances, James would say, I choose to forgive and live in peace with all mankind. He didn't bitch, complain anymore. He knew that he just forgave him and kept going. That's success. And then he would say, therefore, Satan, when he would attack, he would attack all the harder after he said it, but he just kept saying it. You know, no matter who or what came to attack, he just said, I choose to forgive them. A week before he was killed or taken by Satan, he said, I have wasted my life in regrets on things I could not change. I have found love. I have found support, fellowship, and my true Savior. That is what gives a man his value. It took him approximately 15 years here to learn it. But he finally was putting all the pieces together. He says, yes, I got value. You know, I got value.
Good.
Then he went on to talk about people here that attend the services, and he says, Charlene She's been a pillar of hope that gave me thankfulness and direction. And he said, you're my friend forever. And you are a blessing I will never forget. This is what makes me think that he knew in advance that something was about to happen, and he just had a few days left. You know, he started reminiscing and putting things that they'd learned together about it. Robert and Linda, I cherish every minute you spent with me. I felt so encouraged. Jody, your hopefulness, your joy, your thankfulness, they brightened my life and broke many blankets of doom. Just being with you. Just when she would come and visit him for an hour or two in the hospital. It just passed on, and he says, it helped them so much. Judy, your words cause me to look beyond myself, beyond the moment, and see a purpose for my life. Your visits made me look forward to a new tomorrow. Lacey, I've seen how much you've changed and how much you've grown over the years. You have really inspired me to see change and to grow. You know, Jordan, Jeremiah, Lacey, your sons are great and a super joy. I've always looked forward to coming to services because of the hugs and love that they fearlessly give. And he said, just out of the blue, they'd come up and hug him. I felt most blessed to know these boys, and I feel jealous of Robert and Linda to be living next door to them. He talked about other people that I didn't know. And he said that when there's a problem, you can always tell that somebody cares enough to come and see you. They're not running from you, they're running to you. And he says, that was important. And with these things said, James sat silent for a minute and then said, I have peace in my soul. I have my crown. And even if Satan was to steal my life tonight, he is a loser. I know my value, I know my purpose, and I know my destiny. then said shalom, and he left service there. It's the last time I seen him. James was taken from us May the 16th during a very eventful night. So many people came under attack that night. But there's much in his life that we can learn from and grow from. So we say to James, rest in peace. You will be seen with us soon.
Hi, everybody. Most of you know me. I'm James's daughter, Margaret. I look at both the pictures you guys got up there, and it just brings me back to when I was a little girl. When he just starting out trying to be a father. He did his best, I know he did, for all of us. He did not know how to show his emotions, really show it. But when he did, he did. You know, I see a man that always loved and always cared for each and every one of us. And I know he wouldn't want us to be a family again. I think that's what he really would want. I miss him, and I hope he forgives me. I was so mad at him for the longest time. For leaving me and abandoning me. For banning us. Taking my family away. I wish I grew up with you guys. I love you guys. I always have. And I always will. Rest in peace, Dad.
I know that probably nobody knows me. I was married to Jim. We were together for 2 years, and then we were married for 12. I don't know what happened because he would come to me and put his arm around me and tell me he loved me. And I loved him, but I can't tell you what happened. He was struggling even then with depression and things like that. But he loved his children. He loved his children very much. He used to hold Kiara on his lap and tickle her, and she was his love bug. Just memories like that are so good. And I remember when my son was born, how excited Jim was. He had 4 daughters, and I told him not to get his hopes up. But there he was, and I had never seen Jim so happy. It was like he was a new person. And I loved him for that. And he did his best to take care of us. But he was very quiet. He didn't always talk about things. And I could tell when something was bothering him. And I tried to get him to talk to me, but he just wanted to keep it to himself. And I don't know why. But I loved him then, I love him now. I love our children and grandchildren. And he left for me the most precious gift that anyone could. Joy.
My name is Joshua. I'm James's son. I got to see him a couple of times before he passed as an adult, not nearly as much as I should have. But he did say to me how much he loved all of his daughters and me, how much he loved his grandbabies, how he wanted to see them and know them. And I told him that nobody was mad at him for the mistakes that he made. That we didn't hate him and we weren't angry. I just think that he still felt a lot of guilt even after he heard that. But I know that he knew on some level that we loved him and that everything was okay. And I'm very happy and thankful for all of you. Just knowing that he had a family and he had people with him in his last years means so much to me and my sisters and my mother, and so much more than you'll ever know. Just knowing that he was not alone and that he had love. So thank you all so much.
Well, I want you guys to know that yes, he forgives you, he forgave you, and he loves you. And just Josh standing up here, my daughter's like, oh my goodness, he's just like James, even when he rubs his eye. He went like this, that was James. So it's always amazing and lovely when you see that, because the greatest gift, like Linda said, is the children. You are his gift, and you are his future. You really are. And so we bless your future. We wanted you here today so bad, and are so glad that you all came, every single one of you. And we want you blessed because James wants you blessed. And that's why we put that little scripture in there, that a righteous man, all his children are blessed. And we want you to know that you can claim that blessing and claim it out loud, because that never goes away, ever. And so we do bless you abundantly with peace and joy and prosperity and everything in your life, prosperous relationships, blessing upon your relationships as well, and that you're blessed with the gift of forgiveness to forgive everyone in your life. Because one of the things that James, he had a lot of things that he wanted to do. He was not done, for sure. He had a lot of things he wanted to do, and he was just so appreciative. So that is just something we need to know, that this is for us to learn from. Because like Gerald said, if we don't learn from a person's life, we don't give any value to their life. So all of us need to know that, you know what, if there's something you're supposed to do today, do it. Just do it. When you're told to phone that person, or go see somebody, or help them, you know, when with the landlord that I told you about, I knew it was going to be a hard thing, right? But you know, there's some things that you just do in your life that you just do it. I learned so much from that experience that I could never pay the amount of money that I learned from that experience. And I learned how to depend on God and walk into some place with a guy yelling across the table at us. And your dad just sat there and looked at him and had compassion for him. Even though the guy was like lying and trying to steal from him, he had compassion for him. He saw that man's pain. He saw his pain. And he actually wanted to give the man all the money back. And I went, no, you're not. We didn't come all this way for you to do that. But he saw that man's pain. And he saw that that man really hurt, right? And so we blessed the man, and then we left. And but that's, you know, life is worth living when we love people, when we give them our time. And we all know that time is something that is very, we're all very jealous of our time, are we not? I mean, let's face it, that's the most valuable thing. People think people want money, but really? I mean, when you're asked to get off the couch and go and do something, do you jump off the couch, or do you just, you don't want to, right? Because our time. And so if we can give our time, you will be blessed so abundantly with people in your life. Like, it is such a blessing and such a peace that you have when you have been able to spend time with someone in the yuckiest situations. And that's what I learned was, oh my goodness, this is life. This makes life rich, is when I just say yes to yucky situations, right? And do it. And there is like, you just step out and you don't even know where you're going or what's going to happen. And it is amazing. So you don't need to waste your life. You can be richly blessed. Give your time and phone those people or do whatever you need to do. And I always say that with wisdom, because you can't burn yourself out. You have to have wisdom and know how to love yourself and be refueled too, because you don't want people to drain you. Because people will drain you as soon as you start giving your time and giving things. Well, you give it to that person. Why can't you give it to me? No. You'll know when it's the right time to go and do what you need to do. And we bless you so much, and so thankful that you all came and that we got to meet you. It is a real.
So, hello to all the family, and it's nice to meet you. I was a friend of James for 7 years, and it was a privilege to know him. He is the one that brought me to this congregation. He says, Judy, I think you would really enjoy it. And I says, well, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. So I've been here 7 years. And my friendship with James is that, you know what? He would always give. It didn't matter if he had to do with less. He wanted everyone else to be happy, to enjoy life. Yeah, he liked his movies. He really did. And you know what? It was really interesting because he spoke. He says, you know what, Judy? Those movies have meaning. They could deal with family, friend situations. And I do want you to know again, and we all have spoken it out, that he loved each and every one of you. He would talk, and he would talk for hours. It's like we were getting to know the family. But he loved to share. And you know what? When he was going through hard times, you know where he'd keep it? He didn't want to share the pains and things that he was going through, but he listened to others. And he would minister to others in street situations, people off the street. They would come to him, and he would take his time to minister and to lift them up. He cared, and he had a huge, huge heart. Just to have the privilege to know him, for him to take the time, and speaking of myself as a woman, I don't think I've ever met a man with so much respect for a woman and not go beyond the boundaries. Like, I just thought, wow, you know, and he just cared. He wanted to enjoy his life. He wanted to be with his children more if he could. He gave and gave with the whole heart. He had so much wisdom to speak and to give others. And you know, when you got that hug, it was a big, big hug. And it felt good. You know? And I think that meant a lot from congregation and others, because you know what? That kind of takes me. When I come to our services, those hugs last me a week. Because when one has been separated from family, I knew where James was coming from. Going through similar situations in my life. But you know what? Blessings that God chose for us to have a friendship, so that we can uplift each other
And James was when he kept everything inside, it was kind of hard to get it out of him. What are you really feeling, James? Like, I know you're sad, but he didn't want to give you his hurts and things like that. He wanted to bring joy. And you know what? He's going to bring lots of joy in heaven. And I am just, like I said, I am so grateful for the privilege of knowing him. And he was a caring, caring man that will be missed. So blessings to the family with peace and love and joy. And thank you for all coming to share the celebration of his life.
Well said, Judy. I don't want to come up there because I've been a public speaker and I've had training like James of public speaking, theology, pastoral training. But right now I don't feel comfortable going up there. However, I want to say James was a man who, I was going to mention him in a sermon next week, where he's such big and strong. He was a peacemaker, where this place all the place he had to live for a while, homeless people, they had all kinds of problems, and he was able to regulate just by his stature and the peacemaking ability. He was able to put a calm over the area. And also I wanted to mention that James finished his last Passover. He had his feet washed. Now when we have our feet washed, that's like Jesus washing our feet, because people that have Jesus in them wash our feet. And they say, you've got no sin. Now, you may have gone through the year and you didn't know you sinned here and there, but when you have your feet washed, Jesus said, you're clean. So he's going not just to heaven, but directly into the Holy of Holies, having in the arms of his Father right now.
You know, I go back and the little things he said, it kept, like he knew, he really knew that his time was short, that something was about to happen. And I think he was able to forgive himself, that he had no regrets now. And that's how we have to live. Forgiving others and not living in regrets. A wasted time and stuff. Because he didn't look back on the history of everything he went through as something really bad. He went forward in it as something. I grew out of. I went through this valley of death. I survived it with the help of Yashua. I survived it. And, you know, when he said, I know I've got my crown. You know, what more can you say? Anyway, well, thank you all for coming.